Begin today the Gemara at the beginning of Daf Mem Daled Amud Aleph, second line from the top of the Amud. We're talking over here about the halacha that it said in the Mishnah on Daf Mem Gimel Amud Beis that a person that owns Eved Kanani and sold him to a guy, so Chachamim gave a knas that if this Eved Kanani runs away from this guy that acquired him, he goes free. Or furthermore, if he doesn't run away, the master that sold him has to go and redeem him from this guy. He has to go and pay and redeem him from this guy that he should be freed. And the reason is because by selling him to a guy, you're making it very hard for him to fulfill mitzvahs. He's going to be, this Eved Kanani is chayiv in mitzvahs, and now he's living with a guy, you're forcing him, you're causing him not to be able to fulfill mitzvahs. So therefore Chachamim gave a knas that either he goes free if he runs away, or you have to go and redeem him. Okay, so let's see here. This is the next sugi. We'll be discussing more details on this halacha. What happens if a guy, so this yid that owns this Eved Kanani owed this guy money, and this guy came and he confiscated this Eved Kanani for the payment of the loan. And we're not talking about a case here where this was the original deal that the Yisrael made with the guy that he should collect from this Eved Kanani, to take this Eved Kanani. He just went against the yid's will or choice, and he took him. By force. Or a sakrikin. Sakrikin is these goyim, these bandits. They would go and they would plunder and they would kill. And this sakrikin, they came and they took away this Evet Kanani from the Yid. So here you have a situation where this Evet Kanani owned by the Yid ends up in the possession of a guy, but it was all against the Yid's will. In such a case, the knas of the Chachamim does not apply. It was an einus, so he does not go free. If the guy took this Eved for a payment of a loan, even though it was against the will of the Yid, but it was a payment for a loan. There's a big difference here between the Chayv and the Sekrikin. The Sekrikin Stam is coming and taking this Eved Kanani, not for any payment at all. By the Chayv, true, it was against the Yid's will, but the fact is that now he doesn't have to pay his loan. So the Yid does gain something by this. So the Gemara asks, by a Chayv, even if it was against his will we not say that he should go free? V'raminhi, I'll ask you a contradiction on this. Harei she'onsu beis hamelech garnoi. If the officials from the king come to a person's granary and they take away from his grain, so im b'chayvoi, if it's because he taka owed money to the king and now they're confiscating from his granary, so chayiv laser. So even though they took this away from him, he's going to have to give maisris on this. The halacha is, for all your produce, you have to give maisr, and that's even if you sell. Before you sell, you're supposed to give maisr. So over here, because they're collecting for a chayv that you actually owed, so it's like you're selling this. You're gaining money from the fact that they're taking this. So you have to give maisr on this. But in ba'amperes, if it was just taken for no reason, stop. They came and took it at a loss. You owe them no money. So then, potter, malaser. So then this is not like a sale that you would have to give meiser. It's stam, they came and confiscated from you. So there's no meiser. So the Gemara is proving from here, you see that if it's a case where they took it for a certain loan that you owed, so then it's considered to be like a sale, and you have to give meiser. So why shouldn't we say the same by the Evet? When this guy came and collected the Evet for a loan that you owed, even if it was against your will, but nevertheless, it should be like a sale, that the knas of Chacham should apply, that the Evet should go free. And says the Gemara, you can't compare this halacha of maisris to the knas of Evet. Shani Hossam, by the maisris is different. The kom shtar shile. He is gaining something. He's saving. By now he won't have to pay this what he owed to the king because they took not from his granary. So by maisris, that's considered to be that he had a benefit from it. So yeah, he has to give maisris from it like a sale. But when it comes to the knas of an Evet, the knas of an Evet is only if you willingly go and sell your Evet to a guy. If it happened with an einus, so the knas of the Chachamim does not apply. Toshema, the Gemara says, let's another raya, or really a question on the brayso that are brought before the Omar Rav. So Rav said, "Hamaycher avdoi lefarhang." If a person sells his evet to a farhang, who's a farhang? So Rashi here says that it's also a guy that is basically oppressing you, and he comes and takes away things from you, even if you don't owe him b'chlal. A guy. So Yatzal Acheres, you sold your Evet to this Farhang, so he goes free. So this guy basically this is again an Einus. He forced you to sell this Evet to him, and still Rav said he goes free. But before we said that if this guy collected it against your will, then he does not go free. And says the Gemara, it's not the same thing. Because Hasam Havilei Lefayis Veloy Pius. Over there, it was a situation that this guy there was driving you crazy. He wanted something from you, and you just said, you know what, here, I'm telling you this Evet. You didn't have to do that. You could have given him other possessions of yours. You could have given him money, and not this Evet. So it wasn't exactly an Einus. So therefore, in such a case, he will go free. Gufa, so here the Gemara brings this halach of Rav itself, and the Gemara says that you must say that this is the Pshat in Rav. Omer Rav, so this statement that Rav said, he goes free. So the question is, my Havalei Meva, that's an Einus. What could have he done? You don't even owe him this money. So the answer, like we just said, is Havalei Lefayis Veloy Pius. Because you should have appeased him otherwise, and you didn't, so it wasn't exactly an Einus. So therefore he does go free. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the Shaila, Machroi l'shloishim yom. You sold your Eved not indefinitely, you sold him for 30 days to the guy. Mahu, what's the halacha here? Does the Knas of Chachamim apply that he goes free, or that you have to free him? Tashema, the Omar Rav, HaMoich Rav de Farhang. So here, what Rav said, that if you sell your slave to this Farhang, he goes free. So the Gemara is bringing this because at this point the Gemara understands that this Farhang means that it's Goyim that come and take away from you an Eved, not forever, just temporarily for 30 days to work for them and so on. So and we see that Rav said he goes free. So the Gemara says no, basically like we said before, Hasam the Farhang this is this Farhang, they come and they'll take away from you this Eved forever. So that's why he goes free. And as the Gemara explained already before, you could have appeased the guy otherwise. Another shayla the Gemara asked, Machroi chutz mimalachtai. You sell this guy to this Evet Kanai to a guy, but he's not being sold for work. He's being sold to the guy. The guy owns him, and maybe then he could have children and other things, but not for work. Not for work. So it's not going to be so hard for this Evet Kanani while he's in the guy's possession to do mitzvahs, because he has his own time. He doesn't have to work for the guy. Or you sold him chutz min mitzvahs. You sell him to the guy, but you make a deal with the guy. I'm selling him to you, but you have to give him the ability to fulfill mitzvahs. Or you sell him chutz mishabbasis v'yamim tovim. He has to work for the guy, but not on Shabbos and Yontif. So mahu, what's the halacha in all these cases? If the whole problem is that he can't do mitzvahs, maybe he will be able to do mitzvahs. Or you see here from the Gemara, maybe the main concern was that he won't be able to keep Shabbos. But here you make a deal with him that he will be able to keep Shabbos. So does the Knas of Chachamim still apply that he goes free? Or another shayla, leger teishav. If you sold this Evet Kanani to a ger teishav, and since ger teishav is someone that fulfills Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, so therefore he knows that the Yid is chayiv mitzvahs, the Evet Kanani, he'll allow him to do mitzvahs. Or le Yisrael muma. You sold him to a Yisrael which rebels, which is not fulfilling mitzvahs, and it'll be difficult for this Evet Kanani to fulfill mitzvahs. Mahu, what's the halacha? Another shayla, l'kuti mahu. You sold him to a kuti. So as we learned many times, the kutim are those that came and were megayer in the time of the first base of Mikdash, but they were only megayer out of fear, and not necessarily, it's a machlekes if they're geirim or not, even according to the opinion that they are geirei emes, but nevertheless they didn't keep mitzvahs properly. So what's the halacha here if you sell Evet Kanani to the kutim? So the Gemara says, pshait mi achada. Let's resolve at least one of these questions. So it says in the Braisa, ger toishav harei koyv kachavim. You sell Evet Kanani to a ger toishav, it's the same as selling him to a guy. Kuti v'Yisrael mumar. If you sell the Evet Kanani to a kuti or the Yisrael mumar, so here there's machlekes about this. Amri le koyv kachavim. Some say it's like selling him to a guy. V'amri lo ki Yisrael. And others say it's like selling him to a Yid. By menei Rav Ami, the shayla was asked of Rav Ami as follows. Eved shehipel atzmei legiosei. So Eved himself, he went and threw himself to an army to be captured by them. And now ve'ein rabbi yochel lo'itzioi. Now this master has no way of redeeming him. Lo b'dinei Yisrael v'lo b'dinei Evikachavim. He can't get him redeemed, not through a Yiddish court, the Yiddish Bezdin, and not even through a Goyish court. It's not an option. But the question is, ma'u sheyitel es domov. But they will pay him for the value of this Eved. If he's ready to accept money, they will pay him. They're not ready to give him out, but money he can get. Is he allowed to take money? What's the Gemara Shaila? Is there Gzeira here? If we're going to allow him in this case to take money, so then in another case, you may come to sell an Eved. Just like you see over here, the B'diyeved, you are allowed to take the money, you may in the future do such a thing and get paid and sell your Eved. Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah le Rabbi Zrike, Pukayin b'mechiltech, go and be ma'ayin in your halachas to see if you can resolve this shaila. So Nafak, Dok, Va'ashkach, he went out and he was medayik from a different halachas, similar. The Tanya we learned in the Braisa as follows: Hamoicher beisay lo'ovid kechavim. You sell your house, and this is in Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, you're not allowed to sell a house or a property to a guy. Rashi here brings the source le'sechonim, which means le'sitlam chanoi b'karka. You're not allowed to have a guy have a space where he can live and own in Eretz Yisrael. So you sell the house to a guy. Dama vasurim. The money that you get for this house is also for you to use. However, the Braisa says if it's a goy she'ona spaces shel Yisrael, he went and grabbed away this property from you. And the owner, the Yiddish owner, has no way he can take this house back, not in the Yiddish bezin, not in the goyish court. Mutter little as damov, you're allowed to at least get them pay for this house. And not only that, the kaisav u'mayla b'arkoi shalahen. If necessary, you can go to a goyish court and write up the proper documentation for this. And Rashi says, even though usually you're not supposed to use a goyish court for such a thing, because you're at least saving from them the value that you could get for this house. Why should the guy just keep it if he's ready to pay for it? So we see that by the house, we're not geyser that if you're going to get paid, that in the future someone may go and sell a house to a guy. But the Evet, in such a case, you're allowed to be matzel this money from them. So the same should apply regarding an Evet that now got captured by this army. They're ready to pay you, take the money. But the Gemara says not necessarily is it the same thing. Vidilme han emili bayis. Maybe regarding a house, there's no gzeira. Why? The key since a person needs a house to live in. So there's not such a strong gzeira that in another case you may come to sell your house to a guy. But if you have a slave, you can live without a slave. If you allow him here to take this payment, there is more of a concern in another case that you may come to sell your slave for this pay. So therefore it's not the same thing. Or perhaps we don't make this distinction and it is the same thing, and we could be paisha to Sibaya and compare it to that house. So the Ibaya still remains an Ibaya. So this was the shaila that was asked from Rabami. Shalachlu Rabami. So Rabami answered them, and this is what he wrote. Mini Ami Bar Nosson. From me, and his name was Ami Bar Nosson, Teire Yetzil in Chol Yisrael. The halacha goes out to all Yidden that they should know that Evet Shehipol Atzmelik Yasais, this Evet that threw himself to this army and he got captured by them. Ve'ein Rabbi Yochel Leitziyah Loi B'din Yisrael Loi B'din Ev Kechavim. You have no way of redeeming him. Mutter little estamov. You're allowed to get paid for it. The kaisav u'mayla bar kosh lev kechavim, and even have goyish courts write up the documentation for this. Because you're saving at least getting the money for this. So he did compare it to the same halacha that it said regarding a house. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, Hamaycha avdoi lo ev kechavim. You sold your evet to an evet to a guy. So here, this is the knas that we were speaking about, and the knas is that the master that just sold it has the obligation to redeem him from this guy that he sold him to. Now the knas is admeya bedomov. You have to be ready to redeem him, to pay even 100 times more of his value to redeem him. So the Gemara asks on this. This is what Rabbi Shimon Levi said. The question is, dafke or lav dafke? Was he saying mamish up to 100 times his value? That's how much you have to be ready to pay for him. That's how much the knas is. Or lav dafke? So Rashi's prat on this is lav dafke means that it's an exaggeration. It doesn't really mean you have to be ready to pay for him 100 times as much. It's just giving a number. But the Gemara brings that eye for this. Toshema. So now that we have a similar halach. Domeresh Lakish says, Hamoich beheim gasa loiv kechavim. You sell a behemoth gasa, so it's the livestock, but we're talking about big animals that are sold to goyim. So this here Rashi brings the Gemara in Shabbos that says that there's a gzeira, you're not allowed to sell these animals to goyim, and the reason is because if you sell them to goyim, then you may come to rent them or lend them to a guy, and your animals are not allowed to work on Shabbos. So you're not allowed to rent them or lend them to a guy, and then they're going to be working on Shabbos. That's one of the gzeiras. So B'kitzi, you're not allowed to sell this behemoth gasa to a guy. So if you sell it to a guy, so here as well, there's a knas, and you have to buy it back from the guy adasada b'demel, even 10 times its value. So over here, you see, what did it say? Adasada b'demel, that has to be up to 10 times its value. So it said only 10 times. So therefore, going back before to what it said regarding the Evet Kanani, that when it says meya, it doesn't mean meya. It means only adasada b'demel. Okay, because over there it said that it's only asara. Now the Gemara asks on this, but vidilme, perhaps shani eved, maybe by eved this matter is much more severe. Every day that he's living there with this guy, you caused him not to be able to fulfill mitzvahs. So maybe over here Chachamim's knas is much more, that you have to be ready to pay for him even 100 times as much to redeem him. By the behemah gasa, it's not the gzeira is not so severe. Okay, so that's one version of what Rabbi Shua ben Levi said. But there's another version, Rabbi Shua ben Levi, that Rabbi Shua ben Levi said the opposite. You sold the evet to a guy, so you have to, the knas is, you have to redeem him up to 10 times his value. So again, the shaila is, dafke or lav dafke. Does it mean 10 times his value or lav dafke 10 times? Maybe even more than 10 times his value. Tashamas, according to this version, the Gemara brings from the halacha of a behemah gasa, and here it was also the opposite. The Amrish Lakish said, "Hamoiche behemah gasa levikachavim." You sold your animals to a guy. Kain tzanoi said mei b'demel. So the knas says you have to redeem, you have to buy back this animal even 100 times for its value. So over there you see that 10 times is lav dafke. Over there you have to be ready to redeem even 100 times. So over here as well, you have to be ready to pay 100 times its value. So here the Gemara says an opposite svara. Shani eved, by an eved it's different. The reason why we can say by an eved it's only 10 times its value and the knas is not as big, delay hadele, because you're not. What happens with this eved after you redeem him? He goes free. When you buy back this behemah, you get back the behemah. So maybe by the behemah, because you're getting back the behemah, so you have to be ready to pay more for it. Yeah, you're at least getting back the behemah. By the eved, you're not getting him back. So, but the Gemara doesn't accept this answer. Elo behemah taima mishum the hadra. You're saying by behemah we're going to be more machmer, more severe with the amount you have to be ready to redeem him for. Why? Because you're getting back the behemah. The hadra lay. If so, likna say tvei chad. That would only be a reason that maybe he should have to redeem him for maybe one more time of its value more than the eved. If for the eved you have to be ready to pay 10 times as much, so for the behemah maybe you should be ready to pay 11 times as much. But to say that because you're getting back this animal, you should be forced that you have to redeem even 100 times as much. Why? Because he's getting back the behemah. He's getting back the behemah at a tremendous loss. He'd rather not have the behemah. Elo, so therefore the Gemara says a different answer. Eved milsud leishchiche. An eved, that this should happen, that he was sold to a guy and you have to redeem him, that's not so common, should happen. So over there, Chachamim did not make such a big penalty for this. You have to redeem him 10 times as much. Something that's not so common, the Gzeira of Chachamim is not so severe. By a behemah, it's more common that such a thing happens, the transactions with cattle for a guy, so therefore the knas Chachamim made is stronger because there's more of a concern that this could happen. So it's a bigger knas. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked from Rav Asi the following shaila. You sold your evet to a guy, and you were supposed to go ahead and redeem him. That's the knas. But the person that sold him, umeis, he died. Says the son, does the knas go over to the son? Now the son has to go and redeem this evet that his father sold to this guy. So here the Gemara brings from two other cases where you find a similar shaila, that there's a knas of chachamim, and there's a shaila whether that knas carries over to the son. And the Gemara points out that we can't necessarily resolve this shaila from other cases that talk about this. So, if you're going to say, now regarding the following shaila, tsaram oizen b'choir umeis. If he slid off the ear of the b'choir behemah, so the halacha by b'choir behemah is that it's like a carbon, it's kachim, that you have to bring it as a carbon, the Beis HaMikdash, you eat it like the halacha of kachim kalim. But if this b'choir gets a mum, then it has a halacha like chulin. Then you could shecht it and eat it wherever, however you want. Right, so that's if it has a mum, if it got a mum. But you're not allowed to go and intentionally make a mum. And that's a isser min ha-Torah. Rashi here brings the pasuk, chol mum lo yiyeh, kol mum lo yiyeh boy, that you should not make a mum in it. So if you did make a mum in it, so then there's a knas. Chachamim said that then you're never allowed to, there's a knas that you're not allowed to shecht it and use it for yourself. So now, if tzara ma'izem b'chayr, you went and did this, you slid off the ear of this b'chayr, you made a mum in it, but the person that did this mace, he passed away, kansu b'noy yachrav. So over there, if you were going to resolve over there the halacha, that this knas does apply to the son as well, that he can't use this b'chayr, but I can tell you that from there I can't resolve to our shaila regarding the knas when you sold the evet to a guy. Because over there, Mishum Disura de Raisi, he did a Isam in Atayra. Aval Hachi Surah de Rabbanan. Over here, selling an Evet to a guy is only Isam de Rabbanan. So maybe over here, this Knas is not so severe and it does not go over to the son. So what's the halacha? Over here, does this Knas go over to the son or not? Now the Gemara brings another case where we find that there's a Knas, and the question is if it goes over to the son. Another case, if you're going to say that the halacha over here is Kivin Malachtoi B'Mayid. This is a halacha regarding Cholamayid. What's the halacha in Cholamayid? You're not allowed to do work in Cholamayid out in the field, for example, unless it's a dover of it, if it's something where there's going to be a loss. But what happens if a person plans this out in advance? He starts the malacha right before Yom Tif, and he plans it in such a way that it's going to come out that then on Cholamayid, it'll be a situation that if he doesn't continue the work, it's going to be a loss. So you're not allowed to do that. So then there's a knas that he's not allowed to continue the work in Cholamayid. So he planned it in such a way, but then it was and then he passed away. So over there, even if you're going to resolve over there that the halacha is that now this knas does not apply to the son then could do this malacha on Cholamayid. But you can't compare that case to our case. Why? Because the son did not do any yisr. It's just that the father is the one that planned it in this way. Then he passed away before. But over here, regarding the knas, when the eved was sold to a guy, what's the halacha? Should I say lididei konser rabbanan, that the knas is for the person himself, the owner that sold this eved to the guy? So the son didn't do any yisr, so the knas doesn't apply to him. V'alese, he's not here. Or maybe the knas really applies directly to his money, that he has to be ready to put out the money to redeem the eved. So if the knas is on the money, so then that applies to the son that inherited all the father's money. So the money is here. So I answered him and said, Tanisua. We could learn this out from the following brayse. And this is a halacha regarding Shemitah. Sadesh and iskafza b'shvius. A field, you're not allowed to work in the field during Shemitah, and there were thorns that were sitting around in a property, and this person went and cleared it out on Shemitah. This is a Isser Midrabbanan. We're not talking about thorns that were connected to the ground. If they were connected to the ground, so then this is Isser Minatayra. But we're talking about the different dirt and thorns that were in the field that were disconnected, and he cleaned it out. So then, Tizra L'motza Shvius. So even though you prepared it on Shemitah, you're allowed to go and plant immediately after Shemitah, because it's only Isser Midrabbanan, Chachamim were not geizer that you shouldn't be able to plant right after. But nitaiva or nidaira, if you do work in your field on Shemitah, which is a isam and atayra, nitaiva means you improve the field by fertilizing it. Or nidaira means you bring animals into the field to live there, to be there, in order for them, again, to fertilize the field. So because this is isam and atayra, light tizra lamatza shvius. So then you're not allowed to have it plant. You're not allowed to plant it right after Shemitah, because you prepared it on Shemitah. Now on this brayse, v'amar Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina, naktinon, we know the halacha is Heitiva Umeis Benoi, that if you improved it and then he passed away, Umeis that is, and he passed away, Benoi Zaira. The son is allowed to go and plant it after Shemitah. So what do I see from this? And this is here. Heitiva is a Isam and Atayra. But nevertheless, the Knas does not apply to the son. He's allowed to plant it right after Shemitah. Alme, so I see Lididei Konser Rabbanan. The Knas is for the father, that he did this. But the son that didn't do this, they did not give him the knas. So the same thing applies over here regarding an eved that was sold by the father. Amar Abaye, similar halacha, Abaye says, where the knas is for the father and not for the son. Naktinon, we know the halacha is timei taris shel chaveira. Your friend had things that were tahir, and someone came and was metame it. So this is a damage, but this is a kind of damage that minatayra you're not chayiv at all. This is what's called, as Gemara here says, hezek she'ein nikir. It's a kind of damage where you don't notice at all the damage. But midrabbanon, you have to pay for this. There's a knas. But umeis, the person that did this damage, he passed away. Lekonser rabbana b'nai achrov. The knas does not apply to the son. My time hezek she'ein nikir lo yishmei hezek. Because this is not a noticeable damage, so therefore it's not called a hezek. And uknasa d'rabbanani. The fact that you have to pay for this is only a knas midrabbanon. Lididei kansur rabbanan, librei leika kansur rabbanan. Only the person that did it, there's a knas for this, but not for the son. It is actually a sugi we'll see here later in the Masechta B'negei to Hezek Shein and Nikar. Okay, now going to the other halacha that the Mishnah said regarding selling an eved to chutzlaretz. Oilu chutzlaretz. The Mishnah said you sold your eved to chutzlaretz, he goes free because there's an isser to leave to chutzlaretz. If you sell him to a master in chutzlaretz, you're forcing him to be over an isser to go to chutzlaretz. So therefore, he goes free. Tana Rabbana, we learned in the Braisa about this halacha, Moicha Abdul Chutz La'aretz. You sold your slave into Chutz La'aretz. Yatzel Lechedos, so he goes free. And V'tzorach get Shichror Mirabbe Sheni. Then the second master, which is a Yid that acquired him, that was living in Chutz La'aretz, he now has to free him. He's forced to free him. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, Pamim Yatza, Pamim Lo Yatza. When you sell your Evet to Chutz La'aretz, sometimes he will go free, but sometimes he won't. So Keitzad, when is there? What's the difference? Amar Ploini Avdi Mechatio Ploini Antuchi. If you say here, my Evet, I sold him to this individual, which is an individual from Antuchi. Antuchi is a place in Chutz La'aretz. But you only said that you're selling him to this person that's from Antuchi. Then Lo Yatza, he doesn't go free, because not necessarily is that person actually living there in Antuchi, which is in Chutz La'aretz. But if you wrote or you told him that you're selling him to Antuchi Sheba Antuchi, yeah? You're selling him to this individual that's from Antuchi, and he is now living in Antuchi, yeah? So you specified clearly that he's there in Chutz La'aretz, then Yatza, then he goes free. The Gemara asks on this, but Vatanya, we learned in the Braisa, if he says Mechartiu LaAntuchi, that I'm selling him to this individual from Antuchi Yatza, he goes free, even if he didn't specify that he's from Antuchi, in Antuchi, it doesn't matter. Just Le Antuchi, he already goes free. If you said that you're selling your slave La Antuchi to this person that's from Antuchi, but Hashari Belud, but now he's living in Lud, which is in Eretz Yisrael, then La Yatza. Only then does he not go free if you specify that now he's living in Eretz Yisrael. So over here you see that just selling to Antuchi is enough that he goes free. And says the Gemara, Loi Kashi, it's not a question. The Islay Beise Beretz Yisrael. In the case where it says that if you're saying that you're selling him to Antuchi and you don't spell out where this person is living, so he does not go free, the case is that individual owns a house in Eretz Yisrael. He lives in Eretz Yisrael. So even if you don't spell out anything, so it's understood that he's going to live with him where he has a house in Eretz Yisrael. The Islay Ushpize Beretz Yisrael. But in the other Braisa where it says that just by saying Antuchi he does go free, it's because he doesn't own a house in Eretz Yisrael. He just has an inn that he comes to in Eretz Yisrael, but he lives permanently in Chutz La'aretz. Even without spelling out anything, you're selling him to Chutz La'aretz. By Rabbi Yirmiyah, the following Shaila, Ben Bavel, a man that came from Bavel, from Chutz La'aretz, Shenasa Isha Beretz Yisrael, and he marries his wife that comes from Eretz Yisrael. Vechnisa lo yavadum u'shvachos. Now she brings into the marriage all of her possessions, and amongst them is also avodim and shvachais, slaves and maidservants. And now what happens is, whatever she brings into the marriage, the husband can use them and take them back with him. And the Gemara says, V'daitei lachser, and he's planning on going back with them to live in Bavel. So practically what happened over here is, the wife sort of sold her avodim to her husband, and this is called a mecher. And Rashi brings from the Gemara in Ksubis that what the wife brings in for the husband into the marriage, it's like a sale. Like she now sold and gave over her possessions to the husband, and they're going back to Chutz La'aretz. So should this be considered that she sold her avodim to Chutz La'aretz, and they should go free? What's the halacha? Okay, so the Gemara here brings now this ibaya will be based on the shaila benigay to what happens if she gets divorced or she becomes an almana. So she gets back now her possessions. But there's an argument about this in the Gemara in Yevamis. Does she have the rights to demand back these very possessions itself that she gave her husband in the marriage, which over here are the avodim itself? Could she demand that back itself? Or no? Her husband will be obligated to give her the value of those things that she gave him, but she can't necessarily demand back those things itself that she gave him. So the Gemara explains, Tiboy lamandama hadin ima. The shaila we have is according to the opinion that says that she has the right. In other words, she has the right to say that I want those possessions themselves back, and also Tiboy lamandama hadin ima. And this is also a shaila according to the opinion that says that he has the right to say, no, those possessions I want to keep. I'm going to pay you the value for them, if in a case where she gets divorced. And the Gemara explains, this is a shaila according to the opinion that says that she's right and she could demand back the slaves itself. So, Kivin dahadin ima, do I say that since one day she could demand back these slaves, so kedida damu. So she didn't really permanently sell them into Chutz La'aretz because one day she can take them back. Or no, that's not enough. Even the mishabdile lepedis, since while they are married, so they are subjugated to the husband for the fruits, which means for the use. In that time, the husband uses them as his. So therefore, in this time period, they are sold into Chutz La'aretz. So therefore, it's considered to be like sold to Chutz La'aretz. On the other hand, this is also a shayla according to the opinion that says that he has the right to say, I want to keep these avodim. And even if he divorces her, he just pays her back the value of it. So do I say that since he could keep them, so then they're totally like his, so they're sold to chutz la'aretz. He didn't really mamish fully acquire them for their entire body. And what this means is that when they get divorced, so if he doesn't have any money to pay, he will have to give back these avodim themselves, and she'll be able to collect them. So therefore it's still considered to be like hers, and therefore it's not like sold into chutz la'aretz. Teiku, this remains unresolved. Omar Rabavo said, Shonali Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan taught me the following halacha: Evet sheyatza achar Rabbi l'Surya. An Evet that followed his master to Surya. So his master went out to Surya. Now Surya is like maybe in today's Syria, which is called Aram Tzaiva, and we've had this before in the Masechta. It has the halacha like chutz la'aretz. For sure, like Gabi, this halacha here of selling your Evet to chutz la'aretz, it's considered to be like chutz la'aretz. So a person's this Evet's master went out to live in Surya. And the Evet followed him. Umochrei sham rabbi. And there in Surya, the master sells him to someone else. Yatza l'cheiros. So because he sold him to someone else here in Surya, which is in chutz la'aretz, so the Evet goes free. Like the halacha, you sold the Evet to chutz la'aretz. But the Gemara asks on this, why is this? Well, Tani Rab Chiya said about this, that because the slave already left before, willingly, he followed his master into chutz la'aretz. The master can't force the slave to come along with him. If the master is going to chutz la'aretz and the slave says, I want to stay in Eretz Yisrael, the master can't force him to go. So if the slave willingly followed him into chutz la'aretz, so Rab Chiya learned in a brayso that now he lost his rights. If the master now sells him, so then he's not gonna go free. And says the Gemara, like Kashi, it's not a contradiction. Kan shadas Rabbi lachzor. If he followed along with his master, and the master was planning on going back, so even though you followed him, but you followed him temporarily, but he's going back to Eretz Yisrael, so you don't lose your rights that if you're being sold permanently to someone that lives there, that you're going to go free. But Kan shein das Rabbi lachzor. If you followed your master and he tells you, I'm not going back to Chutz La'aretz, Eretz Yisrael that is, and you follow him, so then you lost your rights. Tanya, so the Gemara brings a proof of this, as we learned this in the Braisa as well. Yoitza Eved achar Rabbi l'Surya. A Eved follows his master with him to Surya. So the Gemara stops for a second and interjects to explain the correct pshat of this Braisa, because the term here is Yoitza. Yoitza means he's l'chatchila, allowed to go out with his master. So the Gemara asks, Yoitza le'sagid le'nafik, does it mean that if a master is moving to Chutz La'aretz, does it mean that the Eved must follow and go along with his master? But that can't be, because Vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, Ve'ena koil mitziin, that you can't force your slave to come out with you into Chutz La'aretz. So how can it say Yoitza, that he goes with you? Ella, the way to read the Braisa is Yatza ha'Eved achar Rabbi l'Surya, if the Eved chose to go after his master to Surya, Umachrei Rabbi Sham, and the master sold him there. Im das Rabbi Lachzor, if the master was planning on going back, so therefore the slave followed the master thinking that he's going to go back to Eretz Yisrael. And now the master sells him to someone else. We're going to force the second master to free him. V'mein das Rabbi Lachzor, but if the first master that went out, he was not planning on going back, ein kaifa noisai. So we're not going to force the second master to free him because the Eved already went out willingly to join his master in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, let's learn one more halacha here. Omer Ravana said, Shamit minei demar Shmuel Tarti. I heard from Shmuel two halachas. Choda hach. One was a halacha regarding this case when you sold an Eved to Chutz La'aretz to another Yid. And what happens? So then the sale doesn't really go through. You have to force him to free him. The second master has to free him. And so regarding this, Shmuel said a halacha, and we'll see in a moment what the halacha is. V'idach, and I also heard Shmuel said another halacha, similar case where the sale does not go through, and that is as follows. The itmer, we learned, machlokes hamoiches sadeu bishnas hayovel atzma. Person sells his property within the year of Yovel itself. Yovel is a year where all properties that were previously sold go back to their original owner. So within Yovel itself, you sold the field. So what happens? Rav Amar Mechura v'Yoytze. Rav says there's a sale that took effect, but v'Yoytze. But then the sale took effect, but then it goes right back to the owner. But there was a sale there. Shmuel Amar Enu Mechura Kolika. Shmuel says because this is in the year of Yovel and everything goes back to the original master, there is no sale over here at all. Okay, so now, what did Rav Anan hear from Shmuel? Regarding one of these cases. So now basically you have over here two cases where a person sold and the sale does not take effect. regarding selling your slave to Chutz La'aretz, so that sale should not take effect. Knas, that there's no sale here. And regarding Yovel, where Shmuel said that the sale does not take effect. Now, B'chode, regarding one of them, I heard that Shmuel said, Hodri Zvini, that the money that the Lekeach paid goes back to the Lekeach paid goes back. And in one of them, I heard that the money does not go back. And I don't know regarding which Shmuel said that the money goes back, and regarding which Shmuel said that the money does not go back. So Rashi here explains, it would look like that the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel is regarding this very point. Rav says, Mechura v'yotze. What does Mechura v'yotze sound like? Mechura v'yotze sounds like you paid money for it, you're going to lose your money, and now the property goes back to the seller. And Shmuel says, Ein mechura kol ikir. It sounds like that there was no sale here in the first place. So therefore you do get back your money. That's what it sounds like the machlokes of Rav and Shmuel is. So why is the Gemara having a suffix about this? Isn't it clear that it's regarding this that Shmuel says that you don't get back your money? So Rashi over here says, not necessarily. Even if you're going to say that Shmuel holds that you get back your money, that you don't get back your money, there's still a difference between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says that there is a sale, and Shmuel says there's no sale. And the difference is, Rashi says, there's a halacha that's called kinyan agav. When you sell a property, along with the property, you can attach to it metaltalin, you can put metaltalin on it, or even if the metaltalin are other places, and the kinyan for the karka will take effect for the metaltalin as well. So according to Rav, the kinyan of the karka is a kinyan, and it takes effect for these other metaltalin, for these other movable items. And according to Shmuel, it does not take effect. But regarding the money, lav dafka, that's the machlokes of Rav and Shmuel. And the question is, what happens with this money? Do we say you bought a property in Yovel? Don't you know that the property is going back to the owner? If you bought a property and paid money in Yovel, so you're basically giving him a gift. You're giving him the money as a gift because you know that it's going to go back. So maybe Shmuel holds that when it gets to Yovel. So it wasn't clear regarding what Shmuel said the money goes back and regarding what not. Rav Yosef says, so nechzi anan, let's see, so we learned the Braisa said, that regarding selling the evet in the Chutz La'aretz, yotzel lecheidos, v'tzarech get shichror mirabay sheni. That what happens is that you go free, this evet goes free, but the second master is the one that bought him, he's going to have to give him a get shichror to free him. So we force the second master to free him. Shmami no, what do I see from this? Kanye Rabbi Sheni v'loy hadri zvini. So from this I understand that regarding the halacha of selling to Chutz La'aretz, the second master acquired him, and he does not get back his money, and therefore he's the one that has to give him a shtar shikhr. So we understand that that's what Shmuel holds when it gets to selling to Chutz La'aretz. So Shmuel hasam eina mechura uma is chayzrin. Over there, the Shmuel said is halacha of eina mechura. What does eina mechura mean? There's no sale there. And no sale means you get back your money. Not like we thought before that you get back, that there's no sale and the money is a gift. No. It's no sale and you get back the money. Okay, that's the pshat here. Now, the Gemara asks, V'Rav Anon, or the Gemara explains, V'Rav Anon, Braise lo shmiele. Rav Anon did not hear this lashon of the Braise that to be patient from it. This Braise that we brought, that it says clearly regarding the Evet that goes to Chutz La'aretz. It says over there clearly that it's the second master that has to free him. Rav Anon didn't hear that Braisa, so therefore he didn't know exactly when Shmuel said the money goes back and when not. And v'i mid Shmuel, and if you're going to say, why didn't Rav Anon understand regarding Yovel? Look at the language that Shmuel himself said. Shmuel said, Eina Mechura. Doesn't Eina Mechura mean that you get back your money? So he's no, from the lashon of Shmuel, it's not a raya either. Mimai de eina mechura umois chayzrin. How do you know when Shmuel said that there's no sale, that it means that there's no sale at all, and the money goes back? Dilme eina mechura. Maybe eina mechura means umois matana. Like I said before, maybe taka there's no sale over here, and the money that you paid for this is a gift. So there's no raya from the lashon of Shmuel, and the Braisa of Anan didn't hear. Okay, and the Gemara brings Midi the Hava. Let's just finish off this Indian here. Midi the Hava Amakadesh as a Chaisai. Where do you find such a thing that I say that there's no sale at all, but nevertheless, the money that you paid for it, you lose. Why should you say that? If it's no sale at all, you should get back your money. So the Gemara says, you find such a thing, Midi the Hava Amakadesh as a Chaisai. A person that goes and is Makadesh a sister. Obviously, the Kedushin does not take effect at all. So the Itmer, we learned about this, Makadesh as a Chaisai, a person is Makadesh a sister, Rav Ama, Mois Chayzrin. So Rav says, obviously there's no Kedushin here at all, and the Mekadesh gets back his money. Shmuel Amar Mois Matana. No, the money that you gave is a matana. You knew you can't be Mekadesh a sister, so it must be that the money is a matana. Okay, now the Gemara asks, so the Gemara now goes back to the halacha of the Eved being sold to Chutz Laretz. So what did we say here? That the one that acquired him loses his money, and he's the one that has to free him, which essentially means that the knas that we give for one that sells the Eved to Chutz Laretz, who do we give the knas to? Not to the meicher, not to the master that sold him, but the lekeach, the Rabbi Sheni, the one that acquired him. He is going to lose his money and he has to free him. The question here is, why are we giving the knas to the lekeach? Amalei Abai le Rav Yosef. So Abai says to Rav Yosef, my chaz is the kansinan lekeach. Why are we giving the knas to the lekeach that he loses his money and has to free him? Niknas ele meicher. The knas should be for the meicher. Who's the one that did the main issa here? The meicher is the one that sold him into Chutz Laretz. So he's the one that should have to free him, and he's the one that should have to give the money back to the lekeach. Amalei. So Rav Yosef answered, no, it doesn't work that way. And he gives the following analogy. Lav ach bereganev, when you have a mouse that goes into a house and steals something, it's not the mouse that is the one that causes this geneva alone. He can't do it alone. Elochur ganev. Rather, the hole that's there, that this achber that could then take this little item and hide himself and hide in the hole with what he stole, the fact that he has that hole to hide in, that's the real geneva. If he wouldn't have where to hide, he wouldn't be able to steal. He would be caught. Same thing over here. If not for the lekeach, the meicher would not have who to sell and do this issa with. The fact that the lekeach was there, that's how the meicher, that enabled the meicher to do the issa. So the enabler is the one that gets the knas. Amalei, Sabai argues back, but on the other hand, the lav achbera churim yinole. If not for the mouth that steals, the hole would not have this geneva being hidden in it. You have to have the achber to do the actual ma'ase geneva. So fine, I understand. The meicher over here as well did his part by selling, and the lekeach did his part by enabling and being available to acquire. So they both participated in the yisr, but why, again, the question still is, they both equally maybe participated. Why should the lekeach get the full knas and the meicher does not get the knas at all? Why is one participation stronger than the other? So the Gemara answers, mistavre, because it's logical to say, heiche the ikke isure hasan kansinan, where the isser is right now, meaning the eved was already given over into the possession of the lekeach. So because the eved is in the possession of the lekeach, that's the one that gets the knas. So true, they both did a isser, but by the lekeach you have two things. He enabled this isser, and he has the eved in his possession. The meicher did the isser, but he doesn't have the eved in his possession anymore. So there are some Rishonim that say that if the meicher sold the eved to the lekeach, but there was no mesir, he didn't give over the eved to the lekeach yet. The eved is still in the possession of the lekeach, and the meicher is still by the meicher, so then the knas would go on the meicher. But over here, it's only because it was already given over to the lekeach, and then he's the one that gets the knas.